traders, kings, and pilgrims. Since the growth of Indus Valley civilization, India had contacts with outside world mainly through traders, conquerors, and missionaries. Indian products were in great demand in foreign markets and were exchanged for gold and silver. India is protected by high mountains in north and northwest. The passes in these high mountains linked India with outside world. When the powerful dynasties declined, these passes were left unguarded and invited foreign invasions. Foreign invasion from northwest. After the decline of Mauryan Empire, many foreign tribes invaded India through northwest passes. Indo-Greeks. Among the first invaders were the Greeks who ruled Bactria, Afghanistan. As they settled in India, they are called Indo-Greeks. They were the first rulers in India to issue coins bearing the portraits of kings. They also minted the earliest gold coins in India. The Indo-Greek rule saw the combination of Greek art styles with Indian forms. This new style of art came to be known as Gandhara school of art. The most famous Indo-Greek ruler was Menander or King Milinda, as mentioned in Buddhist texts. Figure 10.1, Shakas and Parthians. After the Indo-Greeks, Sakas invaded India. The best-known Saka ruler was Rudradaman, who repaired the old Sudarshan lake in Kathiawad, Gujarat. He was a great lover of Sanskrit. Saka rule was followed by the rule of Parthians who came from Iran. They ruled over a small portion of northwest India in the 1st century CE. It is believed that the Christian preacher Saint Thomas came to India during the reign of Parthians. Trivia. The first significant mention of the region of Saurashtra in the post-Mauryan era is found from inscriptions around Girnar dated back to 50 BCE. At this time, Rudradaman I, the powerful Saka, Scythian ruler of Malwa, had increased the boundaries of his kingdom to encompass all of Saurashtra and had proclaimed himself the Mahasatrap. Kushanas. The Parthians were followed by the Kushanas, who established a powerful empire in India. The most important Kushana ruler was Kanishka, who came to power in 78 CE. This date marks the start of a new era called Saka era, which is now used by the government of India. It is 78 years behind Christian calendar. He ruled from Purushpur, Peshawar, and his empire extended from Central Asia to Afghanistan, Kashmir, Punjab, east of Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. Kanishka patronized Buddhism. He organized the 4th Buddhist Council in Kashmir to discuss the teachings of Buddhism. Ashvaghosha, a famous Sanskrit scholar, lived in the court of Kanishka. Ashvaghosha wrote Buddha Charitra, a biography of Buddha. He attended the Buddhist council organized by Kanishka. Kanishka sent out missionaries who traveled long distances through silk routes and spread Buddhism in Central Asia, China, and Sri Lanka. Many Buddhist monasteries and statues of Buddha have been discovered in these regions. The most famous of these were the huge rock-cut statues of Buddha in Bamiyan in Afghanistan. During Kanishka's reign, Buddhism had split into 2 sects, Mahayana, Great Vehicle, Hinayana, Lesser Vehicle. The followers of Mahayana Buddhism preferred to worship images of Buddha, rather than worshipping Buddha through symbols. It also introduced new ideas about bodhisattvas. They were supposed to be persons who had attained enlightenment. Once they attained enlightenment, they could live in complete isolation and meditate in peace. According to Mahayana Buddhism, instead of doing that, they remained in the world to teach and help other people. The worship of Bodhisattva became very popular and spread throughout Central Asia, China, Korea, and Japan. Dozens of caves were dug out of the hills for the monks to live in the western and southern parts of India where Buddhism spread. These caves were made on the orders of the kings and queens and were located near the passes across the Western Ghats. These passes were important because the roads connecting these prosperous parts of the courts with the cities in the Deccan ran through these passes. Travelers halted into these cave monasteries during their travel period to and fro. Buddhism also spread southeastwards to Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, and other parts of Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. The older form of Buddhism, known as Mahayana or Theravada Buddhism, was more popular in these areas. Trivia: the region separating China from Europe and Western Asia is least hospitable in the world. Much of it is taken up by the Taklamakan Desert, one of the most hostile environments on our planet. There is very little vegetation and almost no rainfall. Sandstorms are very common and have claimed the lives of countless people. The locals have a very great respect for this land of death. The Silk Route was to be developed around this area only. Chinese pilgrims. Kanishka sent monk Kumarajiva to China. This made the Chinese pilgrims come to India to study more about Buddhism and visit the Buddhist centers. Some of them like Fa Hien, Huan Sang, and I Sing were scholars who visited India to study Buddhist texts and to visit monasteries to study the Buddhist way of life and to learn from their vast knowledge. Each of these travelers has written an account of their travel. Each had also given a detailed description of all the dangers encountered by them en route to this place. Fa Hien visited India in 5th century CE. He is said to have walked all the way from China and entered India from northwest and reached Patliputra. On his return journey, Fa Hien boarded a ship at the port of Tamralipti and reached China after a halt at places like Sri Lanka and Java. He took back with him Buddhist texts and images sacred to Buddhism. He wrote an interesting account of his journey along the Silk Route. Huan Sang visited India in 7th century CE. He stayed at Nalanda for a long time and participated in religious discussions. He carried back with him statues of Buddha made of gold, silver, and sandalwood. He also carried 600 manuscripts loaded on the back of 20 horses. Over 50 manuscripts were lost when the boat on which he was crossing the river Indus capsized. He spent the rest of his life translating the remaining manuscripts from Sanskrit into Chinese. Silk Route. Silk is considered to be a highly valued fabric and is famous for its rich, vibrant, and glossy shades as well as its smooth texture. The people of China were the first to make silk as early as 5000 BCE. Making silk is a complicated process. Raw silk has to be extracted from the cocoons of silkworm, spun into thread, and then woven into cloth. For a long time, the Chinese people did not reveal the method of silk making to any foreigner. In course of time, Chinese traders and travelers visited foreign lands on foot or on horses and camels. They carried Chinese silk to these lands and sold it there for profit. The path they followed came to be known as the Silk Route. This 7,000-mile route stretched from China to Rome through West Asia. Sometimes, Chinese rulers sent gifts of silk to rulers in Iran and West Asia, and from there, the knowledge of silk spread further west. Chinese silk became very popular among the Romans, but the silk was very expensive in Rome because of the huge costs involved in transporting it all the way from China across high mountains and vast deserts. People living along the routes often demanded payments for allowing traders to pass through. Often kings and traders living along the Silk Route began to demand tributes and taxes from the foreign traders passing through their lands. In return, these kings offered protection to these traders from robbers. In particular, the kings of Kushana dynasty controlled vast stretches of Silk Route. During the time of Kushanas, a branch of Silk Route extended from Central Asia down to the seaports at the mouth of River Indus. From these ports, the silk was shipped to the Roman Empire. The gold coins issued by Kushanas were used by the traders to make payments along the Silk Route. Being situated on the coast, the southern kingdoms took part in both overseas and internal trade. They had trade links with many foreign lands, notably Rome and Southeast Asia. References to southern kingdoms are found in Mahabharata, the Jataka stories, the Ashokan inscriptions, the accounts of foreign travelers, and Sangam literature.